welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Landon's room. This is Landon, my offspring.
Hi.
We are here today to right what is a grave injustice. So a couple of you might have been around when I had my original YouTube channel. I doubt a lot of you were, but my original YouTube channel, before it was deleted, I really just documented my pregnancy with Phoebe. And there was one video where I did kind of like a candid interview with Landon about what having a new baby was gonna be like.
Is there something special you want us all to do together, or like you and me to do together before the baby comes? Because you know when she gets here, you and I aren't gonna have all that much alone time.
I think we could paint one squishy.
You want to paint your squishy? Mm-hmm. We can do that. I will make that happen before the baby comes.
But she did not make that happen. She forgot about that promise almost immediately, and poor Landon never got to paint his squishy. She failed as a mother.
So yeah, I don't know how I managed to let that slip my mind for 4 years now, but here we are, and we are finally gonna make it happen. So I bought a squishy painting kit. Let's take a look-see at what's inside.
Cat burger, donut, coffee, popcorn bucket, strawberry shortcake, and french fry.
All food themed, the best things. All right, well, neither one of us have done this before, but we've obviously watched Moriah Elizabeth's videos. So let's jump right in and see what we can do. Okay, so to give you guys a closer shot of these fresh, naked squishies, Landon will be painting the cat burger, the coffee cup, and the donut, whereas I will be painting the french fries, the tub of popcorn, and the strawberry shortcake. Flashback to before we started, and I got us prepped by trimming the seams on these squishies and giving them a good sanding to help the fabric paint stick. Landon decided to start with his donut, and I chose to start with the tub of popcorn. This footage was pretty chaotic with 2 people working at once, so I ended up editing it to show our separate progress. I had an additional camera set up for this video. Unfortunately, all of the footage was useless because the camera ended up autofocusing on the paintbrushes the whole time. Oh my God, really, Prince?
Yep.
But I had to sneak in this clip because it is just too cute not to add. Hard to see because it's so blurry and he's black, but Prince actually jumped up there with us and was being such a sweetie pie. Aww. Anyways, back to the squishy painting. We'll start with Landon and his donut. So apparently he decided to make this a blue frosted donut. Interesting choice. The boy was thorough with the blue though. I think I counted like 5 or 6 coats in the edit. That may have been overkill. We used tulip brush-on fabric paint, and I'd say in general, 2 or 3 coats was fine. Now mixing up his donut color. Oh, and there is a whole lot of this in the footage of him painting. I told him to try and stay in the camera's view, but bless his heart, he kept forgetting. You can tell when I remind him because he suddenly shoots back into the frame. Oh, here's a fun part where he mixes up this purpley pink berry color just to do nothing with it. Yeah, it just sits there, never ends up on a squishy. Just adding a few coats to the underside of the donut, and then adding a little touch of green, and the finishing touch, a little frosting drizzle he made with white puffy paint. So here's how the donut started, and the masterpiece Landon created with it. Let's get a top view of this thing. For being his first ever, I think he rocked it. This one's pretty cool. Now we can jump over to the popcorn squishy I was working on. Where others see popcorn, I see brains. I decided to make this squishy into a nice little zombie frappuccino. I did a base of pink on the brain portion and then mixed up a bright green for the cup logo. Yes, I'm trying to give Starbucks vibes. However, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I actually think Starbucks coffee is mediocre at best. I much prefer Dutch Brothers coffee if you have one in your area. They're not nearly as big, so they're not everywhere, but their coffee is always smooth, never bitter. That being said, Starbucks is just the most recognizable, so I'm going that way. I think I did a good 3 coats of each, the pink and the green, before moving on to add some shadows, using a darker pink on some of the folds of the brain. Then I decided I wanted coffee drips coming down the sides of the cup, out from under the brain, almost like the brain is the whipped cream in this frappuccino. Oh, I lied. 4 coats of the green. Okay, now I started working on the logo. I just wanted to do a little zombie face, but man, I was having some trouble with it. I'm pretty comfortable using brushes to paint tiny details, but this fabric paint behaves in a very different way from traditional paint. And with the brush, it goes on very thin. Anyways, while letting the first coat dry, I decided the brain and coffee drips needed highlights. So, juicy highlight time! Alright, now deciding that I wasn't happy with this zombie face, so I needed to just cover it up and start over. While that dried, there was something this frap was definitely missing. A straw. I took a little snippet of one and cut a slit in the brain, then dipped the end in tacky glue and just slid it right in. Voila! I can see now why Moriah Elizabeth uses dotting tools for the tiny details. Much sturdier control and a more opaque color deposit. Of course I didn't have one, so I had to get crafty and use the end of a toothpick. Note to self, dotting tools. Add to cart. After a lot of back and forth, this is the zombie face I settled on. I'm okay with it. I do think it could have been better. But then I was feeling like the drips just didn't have a bold enough effect, so I covered them with straight up black puffy paint. Let's just say that zombies take their coffee extra black. Here's the before and the after. I love it so much. This idea was so much fun. Now back to Landon. His next squishy was the coffee cup. More painting out of frame. Oh, there I reminded him to make sure he could be seen. He just kept it simple with solid brown on the cup. At this point, I had shifted the camera to try and capture him painting when he slips out of frame, but it didn't really help much. He's just in and out. He finished with a patch of darker brown on the cup. Maybe this was some kind of label. Anyways, before and after. A simple little monochromatic coffee cup. Cute. Back to me. Next up is the French fries. To be clear, we were working on all of the squishies at once, applying a layer of paint to one, then to the next, and kind of just doing a constant rotation. I just edited this video to show each squishy one at a time, start to finish. I will say this yellow was the worst of all the paint colors as far as coverage. I had to do like 6 or 7 coats and it still wasn't solid. The nice thing about these paints was that the dry time was not as long as expected. It says 4 hours on the bottle, and that's probably the full cure time, but it was honestly dry enough to layer another coat after like 30 minutes. Still, that adds up pretty quick. This was definitely an all-day project, and Landon 100 lost interest toward the end of it. I added a darker golden brown to the spots where the yellow was patchiest. And if you were wondering why I added the yellow to the fry sleeve, I just had to do the golden arches. But to put my dark spin on it, the sleeve is going to be black instead of red. These fries came from a very unhappy meal. I sanded all of the squishies the same way, but for whatever reason, these fries were repelling the black paint hard. The paint would just pool in little spots on the surface instead of spreading. This was another 5 or 6 coat job, but this time not due to the paint being transparent, just because it wouldn't cover evenly. Once I had it covered, I decided to add a little spritz of ketchup. Yes, let's call it ketchup. Woo! Okay, I'll look back at the naked fries, and now the unhappy meal fries. I love these and definitely have some thoughts for completing the meal one day. And now for Landon's last squishy, the cat burger. For his top bun, he used the same color as his donut, a wise choice. Then for reasons unknown, he added brown to make it darker for the bottom bun. That one's extra crispy. But then he used that same color to do multiple coats, so they mostly ended up pretty even in color. He's out of frame again. Here he was painting the cheese. And now the patty, back in frame. This kid gives me whiplash. A little green for the lettuce and red for the tomato, and we have what this white cat burger has become. A towering, yummy cat burger. Okay, and that means it's my last squishy, the Strawberry Shortcake. This is the only one I attempted to modify. It had these 3 strawberries up in the whipped cream. I wanted to change those into perfect cherry-like orbs. So I trimmed them into shape, then I coated them in puffy paint to seal the foam and smooth the edges. This was not easy. I used a popsicle stick and just kept going back as it dried to keep smoothing. And I still think they kind of had a bumpy texture, so obviously I need more practice. On to the actual painting. I started by simply making all of the strawberries red, as well as these 2 little spots. I'm assuming those are cherries.
Wait, I thought you were turning the strawberries into cherries.
No, I said cherry-like orbs. Be patient. All will be revealed soon. Now for the cake itself, I went with chocolate. Typical strawberry shortcake has a yellow sponge cake, but I'm doing me and going dark with these squishies, and the yellow is just too cheerful. I considered doing like a green, making the cake look rotten, but I still want it to look somewhat appetizing, just in a creepy way. Double coating everything. Okay, these orbs, I'm turning them into eyeballs. Brown to match the cake, of course. I'm painting the irises first. Then taking my pink, I painted lots of little blood vessels all over. These things are juicy. I was feeling like the white of the eyeballs was blending too much with the cream, so I mixed up a light creamy peach color and used it for the whipped cream where it met the eyeballs to create some sort of distinction. I also used that color in the folds of the whipped cream and here and there in the cream that's within the cake layers, going in with black to add the pupils and a few strawberry seeds. And then to bring it all together, using the black puffy paint to do some dripping toxic sauce on this one too. My plan was to do the drips on every layer of the cake, but after just the top one, I felt like it would have been overkill. But maybe just a little more drizzle on top of the whipped cream. Give each eye a juicy highlight. And that's it. A once naked cake is now a juicy, dripping, toxic concoction. Love it. Okay, now I've got to squish all of these. It's the most satisfying part. Ooh. Ah. Yeah. Here's the collection all together. I'm so proud of us for our first time painting squishies. I think these look so great. Okay, that's a wrap on squishy painting. We have been at this all day. Let's give Landon an extra big hand for being our helper bug today. My little Landon love, I'm so glad I finally got to do this with you.
Thank you.
Okay, weirdo.
Love you.
Love you. So if you guys saw anything you liked and you want me to do more squishies, let me know with a thumbs up because I may or may not have an entire basket of squishies just waiting. So many possibilities. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.